Newcastle making headlines. There's major transfer news concerning them and Arsenal this evening because they've agreed, Arsenal, a £75 million deal with Newcastle for their skipper Bruno Guimarães. Arsenal in pre-season action against Real Betis in Dublin this evening. Gary Cottrell is there for us and we can join him now. So, Gary, very good evening. So we know then that they've been working on this deal for some time. How close is Bruno to being an Arsenal player?
Atmosphere really building here in Dublin, Mike. Quite a few Arsenal fans here to see this friendly against Real Betis, which, by the way, has been delayed. A 7:45 kick-off now because Betis got caught in the Dublin traffic. A lot of the fans here are waiting to hear from and see the man from La Manga, if I can put it that way, to arrive here in London for his medical, because Guimarães, of course, currently in La Manga with Newcastle at their summer training camp. My understanding is he hasn't left there yet to fly over to London to have his medical. That's all we're waiting for now, really, for that medical to be taken and you assume to be passed. Personal terms agreed. The fee between the two teams agreed, 75 million. Arsenal got their man, it seems, but there won't be any official announcement, I'm told, imminently, probably not today, more likely tomorrow or a little bit later in the week. When he's arrived, met his new teammates, had his medical, done the club media channels, etc. But listen, there's no doubt it's going to happen. Arsenal wanted it to happen. They've been working on it behind the scenes for a few months now. Newcastle didn't want their captain to leave, especially in the summer where they've already lost some top players. But it was made clear to them by Guimarães that he wanted to leave, he wanted to join Arsenal, he wanted to add to his trophy cabinet, and they've allowed him to do so reluctantly, but they've got a better price than they were originally being offered. An original offer from Arsenal 24 hours or so ago was turned down. This time it's deemed to be enough, given the circumstances. Guimarães is going to be joining Arsenal. They're just waiting for those final details to be sorted out.
Gary, don't go away. I want to come back to you in a moment, but thank you. James, £75 million. Given what some other midfielders have gone for in this window, this feels like a good deal.
It certainly does. He's one of the Premier League's most complete midfielders. He's got the ability to destroy and dominate at the back of midfield, but then further forward he can score and create goals as well. We saw him so brilliant for Newcastle last season in a really disappointing campaign for the club. He's a Brazilian starter. The transfer fee is high when you consider it compared to other Premier League signings of players over the age of 28. Guimarães turns 29 in November, and Arsenal actually have favoured 23 to 26 in terms of recent transfer activity, but they saw this as a real market opportunity. £75 million to bolster a midfield which has just won the Premier League, and it will take the strain off Declan Rice, bringing in a player of this calibre in this season. I mean, it's a mouth-watering prospect for Arsenal fans, the thought of Guimarães and Rice playing alongside one another. But when you consider Rice's issues with injury and fatigue towards the back end of last season, he will welcome the addition of this Brazilian international. Martin Zubimendi there as well. We'll get on to whether and what this may mean for Mars Lewis-Skelly, but this is a brilliant signing for Arsenal. £75 million when you compare £100 million for Sandro Tonali, clearly a younger player from Newcastle United, but it feels like a really, really good deal. I think Arsenal are hoping to pay slightly less than that, but Newcastle argue they've got good money for a player with 2 years left on his contract, and now the focus for them is rebuilding. But for Arsenal, massive signing. Well,
they may have got good money, but hang on, it feels like Newcastle are getting assets stripped here. What about the fans? Have they bid this man who said he is a Geordie in all but everything? Have they bid him a fond farewell?
I think Isak, fine, got great money for him. Gordon, left with the best on good terms, good money. Tonali, good money. Was always kind of felt like he was never properly a Newcastle boy. Bruno's probably a different one, and I think it's a bit of a mixed reaction. But we've got a bit of information from Bruno's point of view. He feels he's leaving the club with a heavy heart. He feels it's a great honour of being captain. He feels a very, very special club. And his view is that he joined Newcastle, he helped them avoid relegation. They achieved that, and he was proud part of Newcastle that you can see there winning the Carabao Cup. And I remember that interview after. He knew what it meant for them to lift the trophy after so long, and of course bringing Champions League football to St James's Park. But our understanding is he felt the opportunity to play for Arsenal, play in the Champions League again. It was too difficult for him to turn down, but he has found it difficult leaving Newcastle. But I think off the back of the World Cup, he's had time to think. He's very ambitious. But now he feels like he's ready for a new challenge. And I think he looks at Arsenal now as a big challenge, wants to work with Mikel Arteta. And again, the information we've been given, that Declan Rice's name has actually been mentioned about someone he's looking forward to playing with as well. But he also said that Newcastle will always have a special place in his heart. And it's clearly down to the Newcastle fans how they feel about those feelings. But, you know, we've just announced the new head coach. It is a new era starting tonight.
Might be a difficult era. James touched on this, Michael, but where does Guimarães fit in this Arsenal lineup?
I think when you look at the squads, and we'll see it surely, I think it's mouthwatering. I think he's been Newcastle's best signing since the takeover. And just like that is what we... Straight up there, no messing about. This is the Arsenal squad depth. And yesterday we talked about Liverpool's, Mike, and slight concerns about maybe a lack of it and some injuries. I think Arsenal looks strong there, James, don't you think? I mean, in terms of the defence, we know a number of their players can play in different positions in the defence. That midfield looks strong to me. The central midfield especially, and maybe just that left-hand side of the forward line, which we've already discussed. But apart from that, I think out of all the top clubs, they'll probably be the most confident going into the new season. Yeah,
they're red-hot favourites, you have to feel, to defend their Premier League crown. They played 63 competitive games last season, Arsenal, so you can look at what the dream starting 11 will be, but ultimately there will be rotation. Zubimendi and Rice played more minutes than any outfield player for Arsenal in the Premier League last season. They can't do it again this year. Guimarães can play alongside Rice. He can play instead of Zubimendi. There's so many different combinations which Mikel Arteta now has. Heading into the last transfer window, we thought they don't need any more centre-backs. They signed loads, but they've been proven correct. When it comes to their midfield, it was thought, do they really need anyone else? Mikel Arteta felt they did. They've got one of the best ones in the Premier League right now in the form of Bruno Guimarães.
Yeah, indeed. I want to go back to Gary Cottrell in Dublin now. Gary, if you're there, Vinícius Junior, where are we with the pursuit of Vinícius Junior for Arsenal?
Big roar just went up, Mike, because just before you crossed me, the Arsenal players took to the pitch here in Dublin. There are three boys from Brazil out there, of course, Jesus, Martinelli, Gabriel. There will not be a fourth joining, not in terms of Vinícius Junior anyway. Of course, they're going to have Bruno making them a fourth Brazilian, but there won't be a fifth, perhaps I should put it, because Vinícius Junior is going to be staying at Real Madrid. There was a series of meetings today at the Real Madrid training ground. Vinícius Junior involved in part of it, his agents involved, the CEOs, second only in power to Florentino Perez at Real Madrid, and a really powerful guy there as well, the head scout. That meeting went on for a couple of hours, maybe more, and by the time Vinícius Junior had left training for the third time in 3 days, news was emerging, my understanding anyway, that the talks went well in terms of he's not going to be leaving this summer. Whether or not he's agreed a new deal and the details of that new deal still to be confirmed. Some suggestion that he's had more of a pay offer than was previously on the table. Not much more, but a bit more, enough to make him potentially satisfied. And there won't be any signing on bonus because Real Madrid don't do signing on bonuses, but there's some talk about maybe a loyalty bonus if he signs a new deal. All that part of it is speculation, but my understanding, firm understanding, is whatever the detail, he's staying at Real Madrid as the crowd really get excited despite that disappointment here this evening.
Gary Cottrell, live from Dublin, thank you. We've just looked at the Arsenal squad. You both have told me it's so strong, so much depth. Is it an issue if they don't get Vinícius Junior?
I don't think it's an issue because I think it was always felt that it would be unrealistic. It was a situation Arsenal felt was one they could maybe attack and try and convince Vinícius Junior to join. But, of course, you need to find a transfer fee which Real Madrid would find acceptable. And I think a renewal and Vinícius Junior staying at Real Madrid was always felt to be the logical solution in all this. And we wait to see what happens, because I think Vinícius Junior wants to stay at Real Madrid, but he wants to be rewarded for his importance to the squad, and his commercial value is enormous as well. But I think Arsenal will now look at other options. Solis has joined. He's a left winger who can play as a number 10. But I think for the last few transfer windows, they've realised they need to upgrade in that area. Last season, Gabriel Martinelli scored some really important goals, but it's not really been the case of him kicking on with his career in recent times. So if they can find someone else, they went for the very top target in world football on the left-hand side. Who's going to be number 2 or number 3?
And I think that's the key, what James has just said. when you dine at the top table, you don't always get the order you want. I mean, they went for it. You know, that's why we got this information, because they had a feeling. Mikel Arteta would have had a feeling. But what I think with Arsenal in this window, it's not going to be 7 or 8 this time. It's going to be 2 or 3 elites, and that's the table they're going to be dining at the moment to go from the Champions League finalists to Champions League winners.
Yeah, indeed. So Vinícius Junior probably staying at Real Madrid, we think. So, Michael, what about Jan Diomande? Where does he fit into all this?
Well, we think that Real Madrid are finalising that deal with RB Leipzig for the transfer of Jan Diomande. That's according to our colleagues in Germany. Now, it's expected to be around £111 million and up to £120 million. He's waiting permission to have a medical with Real Madrid, but it will be a club record sale for Leipzig, who are usually big sellers. But it's an interesting one with Real Madrid. And I've got to be honest with you, I'm so intrigued to see Real Madrid under Jose Mourinho next season.
Indeed. All right, going back to Arsenal then. Bruno Guimarães on his way. We don't think they're going to get Vinícius Junior. Looks like they're letting Christian Norgard go. What's the story with that one?
Well, he's on Merseyside looking to complete a transfer to Everton. £7 million Everton are going to pay for him. Arsenal only brought him last summer for £10 million. He was an important part of the squad in terms of the impact he had, the influence he had on the squad, but ultimately only played 7 times in the Premier League. So he needs first-team opportunities. The season before he joined Arsenal, he was brilliant for Brentford in Thomas Frank's final season in charge. So for Everton, they needed someone to replace Idrissa Gana Gueye, who left following the expiry of his contract in June. Norgard is a serious signing for Everton for £7 million as well. 32 years of age, but I think it's a really, really good bit of business by David Moyes.
That's a steal, isn't it, Michael?
I think that's probably the most... can totally see it transfers this summer so far. It just ticks every box for both clubs and player.
Yeah, all right, we're going to take a break. A reminder of the breaking news. Newcastle...
The future of Vinícius Junior very much up in the air. Real Madrid not offering him a contract. He has said no. Vinny is back, but for how long, says the front page of AS. Meanwhile, Marca goes, what's that, Ali? Vinny's in the squad?
El Madrid se planta con Vini. That's hard to translate.
Kind of stands firm?
Yes, that is exactly what we're going with.
There we go. Well done, Dan.
Yes.
Excellent. Right. Alex, let's start with you in the Spanish capital. Could we really be in a world where Vinny won't be playing for Real Madrid this season?
Yes, certainly people here think that's possible, Dan. They are not ruling that out as an outcome, especially given the standoff we've been experiencing for so long. As you say, we may get some movement finally, belatedly this week. We've been told a meeting is set for tomorrow between Vinny's agents and the club. And we've also been told that the last couple of weeks since the World Cup, the club have reached out to Vinny and slightly upped their contract offer. However, there's still a big gap between that offer and what Vinny's demands have been. And so far, we haven't had any sign of that gap being bridged. People here at Real Madrid, senior people at Real Madrid, are now, if not in favour, certainly open to the possibility of Vinny leaving this summer. They don't want him to go into the last year of his contract and risk leaving on a free. And people here also believe that Arsenal, the big name that's been mentioned the most often as a possible destination, are the most realistic destination. We know they are genuinely interested. We know that they have looked at the viability of this. We know that although Vinny's camp have denied any contact with Arsenal, other sources say there has been direct contact with Vinny's camp and with the player. So certainly people here don't say that this is all theatre. They say this is a genuine possibility that right now we cannot say for sure that he will be here in Madrid at the start of the season.
What's the big sticking point? Is it comparisons to Mbappe's contract, for example, Alex?
Yeah, I think that has been the root of a lot of it, because Mbappe came in at that point. Remember, Vinny was the established star. He's the guy that has, scored goals in 2 Champions League finals for Real Madrid. Mbappe arrives, earns more than Vinny, in a big part because of the huge signing-on bonus he agreed when he arrived on a free transfer. And Vinny, understandably, would like to be on the same sort of pay scale as Mbappe. The problem is Real Madrid have never paid a signing-on bonus. It's one thing, like I say, a big payment when you're coming in, but to renew your contract, Madrid have never paid a big kind of bonus, a renewal bonus, if you will. And so that's been a point of contention. The other big thing is the image rights. All Real Madrid players, almost every player, it's a 50-50 split between the player and the club in terms of image rights. Mbappe, one of the very few players, just a couple of players ever, who've had a variation on that deal. Mbappe, I think, gets 80% of his image rights in the club gets 20%. Again, Vinny looked at that when Mbappe came in and thought, well, I fancy a bit of that. Why does he get that kind of special treatment and I don't? So it's not just kind of on the field that we've seen difficulties with those two players kind of working as a unit. It's also had a big impact off the field. So I think that parity with Mbappe, I think, is a big part of this.
He's got a point, hasn't he, Vinny?
Well, he does, but if we just go back, I don't know, 30, 40 years, and you think about how different the game is now as to what it was back then, the fact that players now have access to information like, well, hold on, he's 50-50, he's 80-20, I'm 50-50. I don't know how Jan and Stevie feel about it, but I think we all knew who was making money in the team, but none of us really had access to the information of, well, this guy's got it all, and I don't have enough. Now that this information is readily available, and who makes information readily available, it's also a part of the conversation, because who does this benefit? The fact that you put out this sort of information and then you say, well, this guy's not getting, or I'm not getting what I should be getting, and that guy over there, who, by the way, hasn't been the player that we thought he was going to be for us, and I've been the guy carrying this team, and I'm not making as much as he is, it creates division. It certainly does. And so we ask ourselves, how do these players not get along on the field? Well, part of the reason they don't get along on the field is because off the field, there are concerns. There are concerns in that I should be getting what he has. I earn my place in this team, and I earn a salary that is compatible and comparable to what that guy is getting. And if he's getting 80-20, I should be getting 80-20. And it's the old conversation about when is it too many stars with too much power in the same team. But I think we've reached that point with Real Madrid, in which they haven't been able, and when I say they, I really mean Vini, because I think Mbappe just goes through this and say, well, I just worked out my contract the way I wanted to work out my contract. I got my share the way I wanted my share. So this has nothing to do with me. Real Madrid was willing to pay that to me. My agent worked it out, and I'm in a position in which I accepted it, and we're good. Vini's the one that's saying, well, that's mine. That should be mine. And that is the way that I think Vini has played alongside Mbappe. When Mbappe hasn't been on the field, Vini has been great. When they've played together, neither one of them have been great. And so how, if you're Real Madrid, you make a decision that is best for the team? And if indeed you're making a decision that is best for the team, then you start thinking really about the possibility that perhaps it's best to move on from one of them. And you're not going to move on from Mbappe, and so it makes sense to bank on Vini. But from the outside looking in, it is amazing to me that we're actually having this conversation, that we're realistically having this conversation in which you're saying you have two of the best players in the world and that we can figure out both on the field and now off the field.